Operational Impacts Subcommittee for Redding Consortium, and we are greatly appreciative to have you here. My name is Simone Silver. I manage government affairs at Christiana Care, and I am the co-chair alongside Dr. Deirdre Joyner, who is the superintendent for Christina School District. You can go to the next slide, please. So today, during our time today, Haley's going to give a recap of our school choice data, and then Dr. Joyner and I will facilitate what I think will be a robust discussion on building capacity as well as transportation using the same framework that we did last meeting, which is identifying current realities, bright spots, and persistent challenges for each of our three options. We'll then turn the floor back over to Haley for public comment and next steps. But for now, I'll turn the floor over to Haley to begin the recap on school choice.
Thank you. So I wanted to start with a quick recap of our school choice discussion from the September 29th meeting. It was a really robust, I think, thoughtful conversation, and I've organized the main points into three categories: students and families, coordination, and transportation. And then for each category, like Dr. Silver was saying, I summarized into current realities, bright spots, persistent challenges, guardrails, and key data questions that came up during the conversation. So I'll just walk through a brief overview of each. So for students and families, I wanted to briefly also point out that I incorporated findings from the AIR landscape analysis as well into sort of my overall summary, because their findings involve direct conversations with City of Wilmington students and families. So I wanted to point out that it's sort of a combination of information that we've collected from AIR as well as our conversation on the 29th. So in terms related to students and families, some of the current realities I think are important to highlight. So a higher percentage of students assigned to Brandywine or Red Clay schools stay in their district compared to those in Christina or Colonial. Students experiencing poverty, students with disabilities, and African American students participate in school choice at lower rates than their peers. And families report that the school choice process can be stressful and difficult to navigate. In terms of bright spots, really the bright spots were noted mainly for the Metropolitan Wilmington and Northern Newcastle County district options. No bright spots were identified for the Brandywine Red Clay option under this category. And data and guardrails were really related to needing a better understanding of why families choose certain schools or decide to leave others. In terms of coordination, the current realities really point to students, school staff, and community partners emphasizing the need for more streamlined systems to support students effectively. The bright spots really discuss that the Northern Newcastle County model could improve coordination if districts operated under one governance structure. And for the guardrails, it was mentioned that the Brandywine and Red Clay option could be more complex to manage in relation to school choice compared to the other two, and that we really need to clarify how school choice windows and good cause processes would function during the redistricting transition. And some data and updates related to this from the data requests from the meeting on the 29th. We're currently collecting information on building capacity, grade level configurations, and special needs enrollment, among a few other items from all the impacted districts. And thank you so much to those who have shared data with me so far. It's greatly appreciated. We're also compiling examples from other states and counties on how school choice can serve as a vehicle for equity, and we'll share that research with the group. I have I believe a pretty finalized spreadsheet on that as well. And lastly, for transportation. The current realities sort of um, discussed were ongoing misalignment of schedules, safety concerns, and barriers for low-income families and Black and Brown families, which really make transportation a key challenge. Some bright spots, again, really identified were mainly in the metropolitan Wilmington and northern Newcastle County options. And the guardrails relate to really any final redistricting plan must ensure adequate space, funding, and access to transportation for all students. So that was a lot of information. I'll pause briefly just for any questions before we move into the broader discussion on building capacity and transportation. And you can also,
Now, the only thing I wanted to add on transportation is all the districts are hurting for staff. I know
Mhm.
at Brandywine, we've got a lot of open seats now for bus drivers.
Oh,
And what's a real shame at some of our high schools is the bands practice later than the evening bus, which is
mm,
an obstacle for city students.
mm,
So when it comes to fiscal note, the only way to fill these jobs is unfortunately, well, the reality is going to be money.
yeah.
And to make the cities, to make these options work, there is no high school in the city of Wilmington.
Yep.
So they're having to be bussed out, which
Hmm.
impacts students' ability to participate in after school activities, especially since we are having such a problem filling positions as bus drivers. So this is going to have to be something that's going to have to be tackled. And I think it's something that may have to be discussed under fiscal notes because I think
Mm.
that's hurting, um, really hurting the kids, the students of the city is their participation in these programs.
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up, John. I think you perfectly sort of teed up the broader discussion too, because that transportation recap was really focused on transportation as it relates to school choice. But you're so right, the transportation conversation is much broader, relates to equity, fiscal, um,
Well,
all the
yeah, it's
things.
frustrating. You see all the buses meet in one corner of the city of Wilmington. You see four different buses with four different names going in four different directions. You always wonder why the kid here can't get on the bus here to go to
Mhm.
there. And I think that that's the AIR report listed transportation as one of the most frustrating things for city families.
Yep, spot on. Um, I guess, well, Simone, you can guide me, but I was going to briefly um, explain sort of the spreadsheet that I linked to, and then I was gonna open it up to the broader discussion. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, that's perfect. And I
Okay.
do see that Dr. Joyner joined us. So
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, is my sound okay, Simone?
yes, yes.
Yep.
I apologize to the full body. I had a meeting that ran over and I did join a little bit late, so thank you. I'm happy to talk about the overview for building capacity. This work came out of some questions raised at our last meeting around capacity, programming, and just overall space in the buildings. Haley created a really short survey that we sent to all participating districts. We do have information from Colonial and Christina only at this point. Haley, did you want to click on it so I could just talk through a little bit? I'm not sure if it.
Yeah, sure. And I actually did. I was able to. We got information actually back from John from Brandywine yesterday that I was able to include, and then I updated on my own some of the red clay information from the DOE report card, so we have it a little bit more robustly filled out. Um, did that switch to can you see the spreadsheet now?
Yes.
I
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool. Nice.
team, it does look a little small, especially those of you that might be traveling or driving. I don't want you to try to look through this. Let me just
Yeah.
talk through what it is. Maybe you can take a look at it and digest it later. But really, it's by district, the schools. It's the building capacity based on the capacity overview that is done every year between each district and DDOE. It shows their current enrollment, their grade configuration, the percentage of students that are low income, the percentage of students who are English learners, the percentage with special needs, any specialized programs, that was a question that was raised, and then the source of the information, which is fortunately for us, it was all grounded in evidence by district staff. So we thought this is some helpful information that you guys brought up for the back end, especially when we start talking who goes to which school and who's going to be where, and especially when kids are choicing, schools may have to be close to choice based on capacity and enrollment. So this is something you can digest a little bit later, but Haley, thanks for putting it together. It looks great. Are there any questions about the capacity questions that were raised last time and the information that's being shared here today?
The only thing that I wanted to add is under Christina, there's only a couple buildings listed versus the entire district. I think everything north of the canal needs to be listed, because I think when this is voted on, I think the reality is our legislators need to know that some buildings may at the end of the day be empty. And just for a point of note for the group, there's another website that lists all the districts and capacities. I just wanted to list what's going on in Newcastle County. Appoquinimink is at 87% capacity for a district. Brandywine's at 91% capacity as a district. Christina is at 54. Newcastle County VOTEC is at 89. Colonial's at 85. And Red Clay's at 78. The other thing I want to warn people of is DOE has a capacity calculation which does not work for schools of need, because they don't give you room for some of the great things we're getting from the Wilmington Collaborative. So right now at the Wilmington Collaborative at Harlan, we have 350 students. DOE says we can fit 440 students. If we put 440 students at Harlan, we would lose some of those programs. So I've made recommendations that once this is all done and the vote's made, I think we're going to have to rely on some consultants, because if we go by the DOE capacity number, that doesn't work for schools of poverty when you want to put in special programs. Those special programs get lost. And with all this, and also the data needs to be really looked at. Like, I know, and I'm just speaking for Brandywine because I know it, our middle schools were over capacity at 2 of our middle schools. Our elementaries are at capacities. Our high schools have capacity. So if we go with a river plan, which does not move a school to Brandywine, there may be a suggestion to build a new school in the city of Wilmington. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I think that could be a great thing to have another new school in Wilmington. I just think that the reality is I think once this redistricting plan happens, it's not going to fit as easily as people would like it to with the capacity number, if we really look at the numbers honestly and what's best for education and kids.
This is Ray Avery. Good afternoon, everyone. So those are great observations, John. That's why we needed to see the information.
Yeah.
And certainly it varies from grade level to school to district, but some of these buildings are under enrolled by hundreds of students. So there's a differential there.
Yeah, you have to really go through the data building by building.
Mm-hmm.
So the initial ask was for the WLC schools, which is why you only see the 4 for Christina. Then on the back end, Haley had done some work, and then all of Colonial schools were submitted, it looks like. And I'm happy to do that for Christina as well. The other and for the others, Haley, would you just pull those over like we did the others? Christina is home to 4 special programs in district, and so they also are spread out throughout all of these buildings not accounted for in that 54%. So to the point just made by Ray, that's the reason why we need to see the data. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. That was really helpful. Thank you.
Can
I wanted to
can
just
I just-
add, oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. Can I just ask a point of clarification for what was just said about the building capacity? So when we did our building capacity, we had worked with DOE, I don't know, a couple of years ago to adjust our building capacities to account for our special programs. For example, Wilbur Elementary and Southern Elementary have the same exact building footprint, like they literally are the same building. But if you take a look, the building capacity is very different for the two buildings because all of our special programs are at Southern Elementary. So if you take a look, the building capacity at one school is 786, but the other one is 1200, even though they are the exact same building, because we built in the capacity of all of the special programs being housed at Southern. So we already built that in to some of our buildings for the capacity. Does that make sense? So we did do that when we put this together a few years ago with DOE.
Yeah, I guess maybe what we need to do is with the Wilmington Collaborative, they have helped, thankfully, fund some wonderful programs at Harlan, but we've not subtracted that out of our capacity. They still count them as classrooms that can hold 23 kids.
Got it. Because like I said, we did do that with DOE a few years ago when we did this for all of our special programs. We worked with DOE to kind of back out some of those classrooms.
And I'm sorry, this is Kendra Brown. I'm driving, so my camera's not on. When you say special programs, are you just talking about special needs, or are you talking about all your special programs?
I'm talking about like the intensive learning center or the intensive learning classrooms. I'm talking about like the integration classrooms. I'm talking about the Castle autistic classrooms. I'm talking about all of the special education, the C-setting classrooms.
Right. Okay. And they're all in one building?
For elementary school, we have them in one building, yes.
Okay. Only concern with that is that no inclusion at all. And I don't know if we want to start with that, not voting.
I think to your point, Holly, that's really helpful information to know, because then we really need to go back and make sure that like the information we're comparing is apples to apples, you know. And I will point out that I didn't widely spread this or share this spreadsheet beforehand because it is from a few different data sources and also reflects 24-25 data as well as 25-26. So if anyone looks at this, you're welcome to look at it, but just know that it is, and I note all the data sources and the years, but just know that it's not quite apples to apples right now, but it will be when we use it for analysis. But it's just I need a little bit more time to update it.
The other thing, just so people are aware, I know we might have a few legislators on here. Maintenance funding, I know it doesn't sound like a big deal, but ask some of the school districts with older buildings. Maintenance funding isn't based on the needs of the building, the size of the building, or age of the building. It's based on the number of students. So if you have a brand new school in Appoquinimink, brand new, filled with kids, versus a 90-year-old school in the city of Wilmington, the brand new school in Appoquinimink gets more in maintenance funding than the old building in Wilmington. That is built into the maintenance formula. And that's something I'm speaking to legislators about, because that's why some of the buildings in Wilmington are not getting the love that they should.
This is all very, very helpful information. Thank you for sharing. Does anyone else have some feedback on the building capacity data that we have collected so far? And we'll also have an opportunity just to speak broadly about the current realities, bright spots, and persistent challenges around this building capacity based off of the data overview, which is our next discussion piece.
So we'll pose the question here around keeping that in mind, the current reality, the bright spots, and any persistent challenges discussed. How would buildings and capacity be impacted by each of the 3 remaining redistricting options for consideration? We talked a little bit about a couple of them, Haley, and I'm sure you captured notes while we were talking, but Brandywine and Red Clay, the Metropolitan Wilmington School District, or Northern Newcastle County School District. When you think about building capacity, what comes up for you for either of these 3? We'll capture the notes. That really needs to be a strong consideration, or a reality, or a bright spot, or a challenge around building capacity when we talk about these 3 options. And when you share your comment, just tag it to the option you are referring to. I saw a couple in the chat, Haley. You want to raise those really quickly?
Sure, I know. I think Ray put in the chat.
Okay, she talked about to make sure
Data.
we're examining apple to apples. Red Clay should be asked if they are if they're accounting for special programs. Maybe there's a section for questions, right? Or it could be a current reality. Is Red Clay accounting for special programs, as Brandywine has done already? Also, there's a comment around looking into the future. To that end, current middle school population will be high schoolers in 2 to 3 years. So what will high school numbers look like? That's a capacity question, potentially. But there is no high school in the city right now. And then should add demographic trends. Is high school enrollment predicted to increase over 2 to 3 years generally, or remain the same or decrease, or the same for each cohort? So I would add those questions. So it will open the floor for anyone to just add any discussion points around any of the 3 remaining options around building capacity that hasn't already been raised.
Yeah, I'm a slow typer. I was just going to say the Brandywine Red Clay option. There are 3 options of where to draw the line in the river plan. That impacts capacity big time. There's one plan where all of Colonial's kids go to Brandywine. That doesn't have a huge impact. There's one plan where 2 Red Clay schools go to Brandywine. That has a huge impact because those buildings are very empty right now, where that capacity may be needed for the city. So, it's hard to give a full answer of what the impact is during a meeting like this, but I think the river plan option is going to be the one option where the ABC may be driven more by building capacity than anything else. Also, what's least disruptive. And the Metropolitan in the Newcastle County, that's just going to require a lot of math figuring that out. Red Clays, if we go with the red wine option, Red Clay city kids pretty much stay in the city and the suburban kids stay in the suburbs. Brandywine didn't go to neighborhood schools. So we don't have a lot of buildings in the city. A lot of our city students are bused to the suburbs. Which those schools are fairly full. So we have very different models of delivering education for our city residents, which will have to be figured out.
Just overall, I'm scared that I know in our legislation we said that the children would not be moved. And I just don't see in any plan, because of capacity, that the kids won't be moved at all. I know we can do the least we can about moving kids, but, and I could be wrong, but I don't see it where they're not going to be moved at all.
And
We don't
Kendra,
have the capacity to make that happen.
Kendra, are you sort of referring to like the stipulation around students can stay in their grade, until the next, whatever the stipulation wording is to the next
Right.
position? Like if a student is in, a K-8 school in the city and while this redistricting is happening, they're in kindergarten, they can stay in that. They're supposed to be under the legislation able to stay in that school till 8th grade. Are you saying that you don't really see how that would be possible? Is that kind of
For
where
each and every student, no.
Oh, okay.
Most, but I don't see that being, I do see that being a stipulation because at some point somebody's going to have to move, especially if they're going to high school or middle school. We might not be able to move our elementary students that much, but high school and middle school, we have a choice. And that's for all options.
Okay.
Are there any bright spots that we might see for any of the three choices around building capacity?
Yes, even with special programming considerations, there are under-enrolled buildings. So are we making the best use of taxpayers' dollars? That's the first question. And consolidation, one of the goals of consolidation should be making more efficient use of public resources.
I'm not sure if that's a bright spot, but I'm kind of just taking notes and we can bucket them later.
Consolidation. The premise around consolidation is to make more efficient use of public resources.
Right. That
Well,
is
we're not going to see the actual high level financials right now to in order to say, is that to test that hypothesis. So these are bright spots only around building capacity?
Yeah, I
Yes,
think
right
that's
now.
the topic.
We're going to talk about transportation in just a little bit.
Another bright spot potentially is expanded access to higher performing schools for Wilmington families.
great.
Through choice, you're saying.
Not only through choice.
Like if feeder patterns change and if
Yeah, if I'm only focused on yeah. If a consolidated district is created, but really both the Metro and the Newcastle County are consolidated concepts. So I'll just use the Metro for an example. That consolidation and the reassignment of students that are currently in Christina and in Colonial could conceivably give them access to higher performing schools. I mean, I'm not dismissing the barriers.
So Ms. Wright,
I don't know.
so the bright spot would be that, with, you said with the Metro or the Newcastle County, we will be creating higher quality schools for Wilmington students.
I'm talking about access. There are higher performing schools right now. I didn't say that they're
Or more.
where they need to be, but there are certainly higher performing schools right now that they should have greater access to. You know, but there's all other kinds of conditions that have to exist to realize that. The transportation, the actual information for parents to know that they have a choice and what they need to do to access those choices.
But if it was to that feeding pattern school, they wouldn't have to choose choice as much, right?
I'm
Well,
I'm not sure.
I mean, that would be your personal choice, but in my eyes, if we're creating more opportunities for children to go to schools in Wilmington that are high quality schools, then they won't choice out as much.
Over time,
Yes.
they're not choicing out. The majority of people are not choicing out now. It seems like it, but when you look at the data, majority of the people are not choicing out.
Mm.
I don't have the statistics on me, but Brandywine is a choice positive district that we gain. I think the number is 250 more students than we get choicing out. So we do get quite a bit of choice into some of our schools.
And I think the AIR report has some data on that too.
Yeah.
It does. It's very early in the report.
Mhm.
Yeah. The only thing I have as a challenge, and I don't know that this is the place to have it, is that there are different standards. Like if you tour a lot of schools, the schools down south seem to be getting all the brand new stuff. Turf fields, turf this and that, all new stuff, all new classrooms. And districts up north are getting their CNs rejected. I just don't know if this will put political pressure on to see that more funding comes up north.
What's the certificate of need for capital?
Correct. We're being rejected for the third time.
Your district is?
Yes, we are. My schools down south get an additional millions of dollars. The numbers I'm aware of and have are aggravating.
We've been told that no CNs are going to be approved up this way.
Correct. Why their projects run hundreds of millions over budget.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that certainly is very important to document.
Very.
Yeah. There's got to be political will. It's hard to attract good teachers and inspire kids for greatness when they're attending buildings that are, quite frankly, old and run down. Why do our kids play on, fields, grass fields and crabgrass fields while they're practicing on turf down south?
Not our class are teaching in classrooms that are, our children in the classroom that are not insulated correctly and don't have the proper
Correct.
air or heat or anything.
Well, it's a dehumidification. That's law now. And how many schools north of the canal can even do it? I'll get off my soapbox. That's a discussion for another day.
Well, I mean, it is the discussion. And
We need just,
I mean, you're speaking to inequities.
Yes, I am.
Monica put in the chat that not all buildings are set up for the needs of 21st century learning.
Absolutely. Something as simple, and I know discussion for another time, but something as simple as we put smart boards in schools now. Now the teachers have a glare on the smart board. They don't have the ability to dim the lights. That's a huge investment to change all the lights out in the school. I'm desperately trying to do that in our building so the teachers can teach. But, if the kids can't see what's on the board, how does a teacher
Mhm.
inspire these kids to greatness when they can't see it?
Thanks, Haley. You captured all that nicely.
Thanks. I don't know. Oh, Simone, you go.
No, I was gonna say, do we think we're ready to move on to the transportation discussion?
I think so. I'm seeing head nods. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, Simone, I'll go ahead and pass it to you. Or is this me?
No,
Kara?
yeah, it's me. So the prompt here is the same around um as we did with building capacity, but it's for transportation based on the current realities, bright spots, and persistent challenges discussed. How would transportation now be impacted by each of the three redistricting options for consideration? And if you're able to note which redistricting option the reality or bright spot or challenge fits into when you speak.
Well, the metropolitan and the metropolitan plan would eliminate the need to put a lot of students on a 45-minute bus ride to Christina. And there might be shorter bus rides to closer schools. It would also eliminate the need because, let's be honest, Colonial's removed from the city as well. All of Colonial students are bused out of the city. Colonial doesn't have any buildings within the city. So, there'd be a savings there those funds would have to be shifted to the other districts to fund the transportations, but hopefully they'd be shorter routes.
that would be a convenience benefit for the students. I don't think it's going to be a financial benefit because bus companies, usually it's not, well, I mean, I guess for the districts if they own their own, but I'm speaking as a school that has a contract for that service. It's usually not about the distance of the trip as much as it is like the time or the actual number of routes. I don't think we can assume that there's going to be a cost savings. I agree with you, though. It
Yeah.
could minimize the amount of time a student stays on a bus. Yeah.
I think another bright spot would be that the footprint is going to be such a size that every student would be able to get transportation. Typically with choice, at least in Christina, you don't get transportation when you choice. I think some of our other districts do or don't. But here, I think everybody would get transportation whether choice or not. And Ray asked a question about, are there some district and DART partnerships? We do get DART passes for students. And I believe our other districts do as well.
But do you coordinate, is there any coordination of bus routes?
So the students that get the passes go in areas where we don't provide transportation. So, for example, some of our students in transition, or if we know of a family who lives out of district but have choiced in and are really having some trouble getting in, we have given some DART passes. So I don't know if I'm answering the question.
You're answering the question in turn. I guess when you search, there are special circumstances where students, whether it's related to a lack of transportation, a choice, or other reasons, where you can get DART passes. Do they give them to you for free, or you pay for them?
They give them to us for free.
Mm-hmm. What I was asking is, has there ever been any attempt? I'm not just asking you, with Northern Newcastle County school districts to coordinate with DART, which I thought was a good idea, but the kids said they don't even want to get on a DART bus. They said it's unsafe.
Yeah, I was about
They said a lot of things go on those buses, and when you're waiting for the bus, and once you get on the bus, they feel unsafe, and that was documented in the youth PAR and the AR report.
Especially depending on where the stop may be.
Yeah, there has been no coordination in Christina. We just use them for special circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we don't coordinate either, but a lot of our kids do take the DART bus, like when they miss the bus and that kind of stuff.
I think DART runs other kinds of transportation services, or maybe that's the Delaware River Bay Authority. And I just think that it's worth a try to see if there could be better coordination, or at least a pilot. Those are they called DAS? The special buses for people with disabilities that are smaller. Are those operated by DART?
They have paratransit buses, if that's what you're talking about.
Is that operated by DART?
Yes. But they're very limited in number, and they are we have some students that use them, and we have some paraprofessionals and teachers that actually utilize those buses as well. And I will tell you that they're difficult at best.
Because they don't run on a regular schedule?
They do not run on a regular schedule. They run by you call them when you
Mm-hmm.
And so very often, like, you're calling and you're waiting. I'll be there in 45 minutes and you're waiting for an hour and a half. So it is not a user-friendly system.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah,
Haley, for you filling out the sheet, you have that column for current reality. I think only thought I have under there is there are 4 districts operating within the city, and our buses go 4 different directions. That limits the ability for choice. I think this is a tough conversation because it sounds like this is the biggest area of complaint from city parents and residents.
It's a biggie. It's a couple of other biggies, but this is a biggie.
I don't know if it's a challenge, but I do recall a conversation around students not getting transportation if they're within like a mile or two of their school. And I don't know if you would want to list that as a current reality or a challenge, but that has been brought up on multiple occasions.
Well, so that's a policy issue.
Yeah, other states do something called a courtesy bus, where buses can be provided with under 2 miles. But there are some really major roads that when you're drawing transportation's drawing the line, the kids really can't cross those roads. So you're absolutely correct that when we're looking at this, that would have to be addressed. I would feel very uncomfortable as a parent having my child cross some of the roads that they're required to. I hadn't even thought of that. That's a tough one.
Deirdre, do you all waive that requirement if there's a 4-lane road that has to be street that has to be crossed?
Do we waive the requirement?
The
I'm sorry, I
requirement
didn't hear.
that you walk if you're within 1 to 2 miles of the school. But are exceptions made based on the kind of streets that have to be crossed? That's what I'm asking.
So there are some considerations for that, yes. Holly, do you guys do that in
Yes,
Colonial as well?
we
Yeah.
do. Like, for example, like right across the street from Wilbur, there's Sunset Meadows. And because 72 Wrangell Hill Road is such a busy road, those kids get buses because we would never want them, walking across that road there. So yeah, we absolutely do that. Or on Cox Neck Road, we don't have any kids walking down Cox Neck Road to Southern or Gunning Bedford because the road is just too dangerous. So we absolutely do that.
Right.
One of the obvious challenges that we just, keep thinking that we could, just consider is just the cost, right? Whether we think of the gas, the upkeep of the buses, the electric buses that are coming, like all of, just all of the things that go along with transportation in and of itself. The increase in cost are just rising. And, Emily and I have had this conversation. The cost just continues to rise, and we are trying to find ways just within our own district to cut costs. And now if we're going to be talking about choicing kids and moving kids, further distances, it's just going to exacerbate the amount of money that we're paying within each district.
Well, I think it could go either way. It depends on the model that's chosen. the model and the enrollment.
Right, I think though, I think there's going to be a cost for at least a district. It might not be this district, but
Mhm.
a district is going to feel the financial impact of the rise in transportation costs because
Oh, yeah, yeah, without a
one
doubt.
of the districts is, one district is gonna get it.
Without a doubt. Mhm.
So I just started I just made a duplicate and started a new one so I was kind of running out of room. So don't worry, I didn't just delete all the information.
And yeah, we follow.
Um, so I don't know if this is included in the next steps conversation, but I know that as co-chairs, we need to kind of present next week on where our committee is leaning in regards to one of the redistricting options available. I don't know how we want to facilitate that conversation, or if we're okay moving forward from the transportation conversation.
Not hearing anymore, Simone, I think it's okay to move on.
Yeah.
We can always go back, guys. If you think of something, just raise it and, Haley will capture it. And to, your point, Simone, I don't know that the committee has like a preference. I think we all have an individual idea of what we're thinking. But we do, you're right, have to do a 3-minute, I think, update of what we've done so far. So we plan to talk about the work we did with capacity, the work we've done around choice, and the discussions we've had around transportation. We'll shrink that down into probably a 2.5 minute conversation. But is there anything anyone on here thinks we should say, do, or consider when we point out one of the 3 remaining models, and which one do you think makes the most sense? And if we don't have that today, we're perfectly fine. But just wanting to know, have we moved any closer in this space towards one of those options?
The only comment I made, and I made earlier, is that I think when it comes around capacity, there's a lot of work that has to be done after decisions made about really fitting kids into schools, and that's a pretty big ordeal. I think that's a bigger ordeal than a committee like this can come up with.
Thank you for that.
I would just say I haven't been keeping tally, but it sounds to me like there's more bright spots for the consolidated Newcastle County district, but that may just be my impression. But it seems like there's some efficiencies, economies of scale that we gain in that model that we don't in the others.
Thank you for that. Any reactions to Margie's comment?
I feel like in order to make a better decision, I would need to see all of the capacity numbers um, to make it make sense. I feel like that's going to be a huge I'm sorry, it's going to be one of the huge questions I would have with making a choice, because that's going to depend on what makes sense when it comes to capacity.
Thanks for that, Kendra.
Mhm.
From a just a business model, it seems on the surface that Newcastle County Consolidated is logical. One tax base, one school board, you know, I'll go down the list, one teachers union or educators union, whatever the title is, around governance. It seems on the surface logical, but the rallying cry that is growing more and more loud each day in the city of Wilmington, among the families that we're hearing from, as well as nonprofits, as a concern around Wilmington's families feel that their voices are muted now, and they are communicating, and they will continue to communicate, and hopefully people will start coming in larger numbers to the Redding Consortium's meetings, that they are concerned that Wilmington will get really lost in a very large district. Historically, the implementation of desegregation, there was one Newcastle County Consolidated District that really didn't operate long enough for its impact to be evaluated. From my perspective, the benefits of a metro, you still get consolidation, you still get some assumed cost efficiencies. Wilmington students would be together and not divided up, but they also would have the opportunity for greater exposure should their families choose to that goes beyond their neighborhood. All of them have their advantages and disadvantages. A lot of the information that we really need to drill down on is really in the implementation phase. I don't know how all these scenarios for 3 models, the finance, the transportation mapping, the staffing, all of the things that need to be considered. I don't know how that's going to. I don't think those questions are going to be answered in the next 90 days. I think there's the implementation. So Deirdre, you said that this subcommittee is being asked to do what? To state a preference?
Yes. To state whether or not we're leaning in one direction or the other. Haley, did you want to provide just a little bit more context?
Yeah, sure. And I think more so like at the retreat on the 28th, I think it's going to be important to have strong participation that day, but I think the beginning part of the retreat, we're just going to ask the co-chairs of all the subcommittees to share out, like Deirdre said, about what the conversations have been at the subcommittee meetings, and if there are any leanings. There's no pressure to, in this meeting, pick a direction, but it's just if they're like sort of how Margie was saying, it seems like maybe more bright spots are being brought up around the consolidated options versus the Brandywine and Red Clay. But also, like, I think it's just more of a report out on what's been coming up, and if there's a direction, but there's if not, that's also okay. And then I think the goal of the end of the day at the retreat will be some sort of there won't like a temperature check on which redistricting options people are sort of leaning towards, but there won't be any formal vote. But I think it's just more to aim to identify one or two clear directions that people may be feeling. Was that helpful at all or more confusing?
I don't think it's confusing. I think it's difficult to ask a group to articulate a preferred direction when each one of us may cast a different vote outside of this subcommittee. That's what my struggle is.
Yeah. And I think so Angela, the facilitator, was kind of talking about that. She kind of wanted to see both. She wanted to see if there were any natural leanings for each of the subcommittees, but when the private vote is taken at the end of the day, it's going to be individual. So, it will be sort of your individual vote or whoever you represent on the consortium, a vote towards where you're leaning or folks that you represent where you think that they're leaning, if that makes sense. So I guess it's kind of trying to be both, but at the end of the day, the vote will be anonymous, but your own individual vote. That's how I understand it anyway from talking to Angela last week. But
I mean, I think that Ray is right. It's really hard. We don't have a consensus of this group, and we haven't really discussed it at length with each other. I think it's just a combination of individual preferences, and I guess all the voting members are those that will, as you say, have the last word. But
yeah.
I think, and I'm perfectly fine reporting out as the co-chair that this group does not have a preference either way. We just have considerations that each needs to take and need some additional info and things like that. Hillary, I'm sorry, your hand is up.
Sorry, I had trouble unmuting. I'm a parent, so I'm just kind of listening in to as many of these meetings as I can and trying to understand what's going on. But someone just said a few minutes ago that it's hard to develop a preference, or certainly a preference as a group, without understanding the plan to kind of put all of this in motion, right? And I understand that we're not there yet. We don't have a plan to put these in motion. We're still just coming up with the ideas and all the things that we need to think about. Am I correct in understanding that a vote will take place before those plans are even drafted, right? Like those plans would not come about for all three of the options. It will only happen for the one that is chosen. Okay.
That is correct.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you for that conversation. We just wanted to do like just a temperature check to ensure that we will indeed represent the voice of the committee well next week. But Haley, you can move forward to public comment if you're ready.
There was just a comment that if you're thinking about minimally disruptive paths, most of the kids in the city are in Red Clan Brandywine. I might have to look at the data, the capacity sheet for that. But that was a comment made. Okay, Haley, I'll turn it back over for public.
Sure. I think we've had a good sort of discussion so far, but I'll open it, up to public comment. Usually we give 2 minutes per individual, and we don't typically respond to public comment. We just receive it, record it for the record. So if there's anyone who would like to give public comment, please feel free to raise your hand or go off mute, or put it in the chat as well. I'm scrolling through. I don't see any yet. All right.
No hands raised.
We okay to move to the next one?
All right. Yep. Okay. Next steps, Haley.
Yeah, so the next steps are really to compile and summarize the data and discussion from today's meeting, similar to how we, presented the school choice information. So we can sort of present it all succinctly and really try to see how that helps inform the final sort of redistricting options that, we're talking about. We need more information. If we can kind of distill this conversation, we can sort of see where maybe some of the information gaps are. And then, like I said, these are some of the upcoming Redding meeting dates. And again, I want to emphasize that I think it'd be important to have strong participation on the October 28th full body retreat for those of you that are available. If you don't have the calendar invite already, I can certainly send it to you because I think this will be a really good, like Simone said, like a temperature check on how people are feeling. Are we ready to move forward? Do we need more data and information? Is there bubbling up consensus, or are there still sort of a lot of proliferating thoughts and ideas about which option would be best to serve City of Wilmington students and families? So it'd be great. Of course, we want you to participate in any and all meetings, but if you can put your effort into one, I would say the full body retreat would be fantastic. So, yeah, that's all I've got.
Thank you. And so, team, thank you for joining us. Looks like we're able to give you a little bit of time to deposit back into your time bank there. We appreciate you sharing and caring, and for all that you hope for our kids. Have a great night.
Thank you. Put my email in the chat if anyone needs it. Good night.
Good night.